Hey everybody, Colin Plume, CEO Noble Gold Investments, and got an exciting day today. And listen, I always say, look at opportunities, but I've been thinking about it a lot and looking at the news, and maybe the best way to make money is to get a job in Congress because you get insider information. It seems like these people are getting information that nobody else can. And I'm half joking because I would never recommend anyone to get a job in government, but it seems to be people that are getting into government jobs are very interested in stocks, and I wonder if it's because they know they get information that other people can't. Let's cut to an interesting clip that talks about this in a little bit more detail of kind of what's happening behind the scenes.
Anybody want to be poor? I don't.
Senator Rick Scott is one of the richest members of Congress, in part after making an absolute fortune as the CEO of a healthcare company that was accused of defrauding Medicare and fined over $1 billion. What was at the time the largest healthcare fraud settlement in U.S. history. That's that guy. That might help explain why he's so adamantly against this anti-corruption bill. Just might help explain it.
When I got elected, I sold all of my trusts and assets. Great. I don't have a blind trust. I practice what I preach. I don't have individual stocks. I don't trade in stocks. I'm not a billionaire, unlike others on this committee.
You made a reference to billionaires, okay? I don't know when in this country it became a negative to make money. But somehow, if you've made monies, you're supposedly, I think Senator Hawley suggests, you shouldn't be serving. Anybody want to be poor? I don't. This is an attack against the president, attack against the vice president. That's what this is.
Listen, I obviously want people to make money, but the fact that he was in a Medicare fraud, it's different. He had a massive fraud in a company that he owned. It seems like they got through that, but this bill is about protecting the integrity of these people that are running for a government position. The idea is they're running it to make the country better. They get paid for that. They're not paid to use information, getting early information. I mean, there's insider trading laws that stockbrokers and C-suite people have to follow because it's against the law, but somehow people in government have been able to circumvent this. So we're trying to create some laws. And, Senator Hawley was saying he doesn't have a blind trust. He doesn't trade stocks. In my opinion, it's okay to have a blind trust. Actually, a blind trust makes the most sense. I'm not saying that if you go into government, you should give up all of your assets. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying it should be set up in a way. A blind trust is good. There's ways that we can do it. I'm going to talk about that later, of ways that a politician could have assets grow without them being actively involved. Let's cut to the next clip here.
The president has spoken to Senator Hawley, who called him, and the president took that call. As the president said in the Roosevelt Room yesterday, conceptually, he, of course, supports the idea of ensuring that members of Congress and United States senators who are here for public service cannot enrich themselves. And the reason that this idea to put a ban on stock trading for members of Congress is even a thing is because of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is rightfully criticized because she makes, I think, $174,000 a year, yet she has a net worth of approximately $413 million. In 2024, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, this was a fascinating statistic to me, grew 70% in 1 year in 2024, and her portfolio outperformed every single large hedge fund in that same year, and even more than doubled the returns of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. So I think the president stands with the American people on this. He doesn't want to see people like Nancy Pelosi enriching themselves off of public service and ripping off their constituents in the process. As for the mechanics of the legislation and how it will move forward, the White House continues to be in discussions with our friends on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, so when I started this, I was sort of making a joke that, if you want to be a good stockbroker or you want to trade your own stocks, you should get into Congress. But it seems like people are actually doing this. I mean, obviously you have the bill that they're trying to get passed. The idea that Nancy Pelosi had a 70% return last year and outpaced every hedge fund, that should really sink in for people. But what's happening in Congress is this: 61% of all the freshman class are buying individual stocks, owning individual stocks. That number was 46% before that. So there's been 60 bills that they proposed to help circumvent, so there's no more corruption. And part of it is there's the fine that they have to pay if they get caught is ridiculous. It's $200. I mean, it's not a deterrent to have a $200 fine. If you're Nancy Pelosi, you're like, I'll pay that fine every minute of the day so that I can make $413 million, which is what her net worth is. And let's not forget, during COVID, this was happening all the time. I mean, these Congress people were ahead of the game. They knew when the world was going to shut down. They knew what was happening, and they made millions and millions of dollars. It's not fair to everybody else that has to play by the rules. There is a way that you can set this up. There is a way that you can set it up that it's fair. And one of them is a blind trust. You put it into a blind trust, and even if you had a stock person, you say, listen, this is it. Let you decide. You make decisions. Or you could put them all in stock market funds that just trade based on the stock market and you don't touch them. So there are ways to do it where you can still grow your wealth as a politician in a way that's fair. You know, I'm not saying sell all your assets. It makes no sense. Why would you want to sell your assets and go into cash? I mean, the dollar's losing a tremendous amount of value, so that doesn't make any sense either. So we need to create an environment where people in public service don't have an incredible advantage over regular people. Otherwise, what type of people are we going to secure for these jobs? Who are we recruiting? We're basically saying, if you want to be like Nancy Pelosi, all you have to do is get into a powerful position in government. Don't even worry about doing a great job. Just you're going to get information and you can become very wealthy. That's a terrible message to send. People should go into government for the right reasons, in my opinion. So yeah, this is one thing that's happening, and we really need to talk about this. We need to get these laws passed so that we don't continue to see this happening, because it's affecting all of us. And we're going to get the wrong type of people in Congress, in government. And insider trading, it's a betrayal of our capital way of life. The idea that these people are cheating the system in government positions is disgusting. That's my take on what's happening there. And here's a great chart that talks about these bills that they've tried to pass. 60 bills. We need to get these bills passed. One of these needs to pass to create some type of regulation to make sure that we don't see this kind of corruption. So we need to make sure that we pressure our politicians to get a bill passed, to make sure that they can't do insider trading. It's not right for all of us. All right, let's cut to a commercial.
We're talking to people today about investments. Let's see if we can get somebody. Excuse me, sir. Do you have a retirement account?
I do. I'm invested in some annuities.
Fixed income? How is that?
It was better a few years ago. Each year, it buys less and less, barely keeping up.
That's where gold can make a difference. Unlike fixed payouts, gold rises with inflation, so you're not stuck with a low fixed payment.
So gold isn't stuck in the past like my annuity?
Don't let inflation erode your retirement savings. Invest in gold. Invest with Noble Gold Investments.
Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about is this article that came out, talks about millennial wealth and this explosion that we've seen. Millennial wealth is at 2.5 trillion right now. It exploded from 90,000 per millennial to 360,000, it makes them nearly a third richer than actually baby boomers at the same age. And first glance, this seems great and exciting to see that, we're seeing tremendous wealth happening there. But you can see, obviously, the majority of that wealth is still with the baby boomers, and the silent generation there is doing pretty well too. But I think the thing to keep in mind when you look at this is a lot of it has to do with what the value of the dollar is. And I think it's a little misleading because inflation really isn't calculated appropriately to show what the actual wealth is. And yes, they own homes. They're continuing to acquire assets, and that's really the majority of their wealth. It's not in cash. They own homes. They have real estate, and a lot of them bought when it was much more affordable. And I think the one thing that is probably good for this generation is that with rates going up, they're forced to kind of stay in their homes and figure out a way. And even though it's hurt the values of their homes, in some ways having people stay in their homes for longer term, there's studies finding out there's some significant benefits. One, people nowadays move a lot, tremendous costs and a lot of waste with continuing to move. So the fact that people got this low mortgage, they've stayed in it for a while, they bought it years ago, them staying in is actually going to help them longer term with their wealth because they're not continuing to move around all the time. Every time you move, moving costs, new furniture, all these things, it's a sunken cost that ends up costing a lot of money. So that's kind of the first thing. Also, though, thank God some of these have made a lot of their money because a lot of this generation is struggling right now for jobs. They're used to, middle manager, C-suite jobs. A lot of those jobs are sort of getting pulled away. So I think it's important that this generation really kind of hunker down and focus on maintaining their wealth. And, one of the ways that they're going to maintain their wealth is they're going to have to adapt in this economy. You're going to have to be able to create new skills and have different ways, income streams coming in, which is something I talk about a lot. That's why gold and silver are really important. It's just another asset to protect yourself, not having all your eggs in one basket and being a little bit more diverse with what you have. So it is interesting. I do think it's a little misleading in terms of the numbers. I don't think it's, straight value being the same, baby boomers to today, these millennials, because obviously inflation is going up, the cost of goods is going up. So it does seem like their wealth has grown. Most of it's based on assets, but I do think relative to baby boomers, if you did the math, it's baby boomers still were more profitable. Inflation was lower, our debt was lower. So I don't think it's a fair calculation that millennials are doing better than baby boomers. Because from what I see out there, it seems like people are starting to struggle. And then the last thing I wanted to get into today is what's going on with solar and, really the demand. And I was thinking about, this video of this man and the robot, I think sort of illustrates what's going on with solar and the big, beautiful bill. So in this video, basically the big, beautiful bill is the man and solar is the robot. And I'll explain why when you watch this. Check out I'm sure you've seen this video, but check it out. I think we got it. I had to find an excuse to play that video. I love that video. Yeah, I mean, I think that video, and then I was thinking about my topic of solar, and this administration is doing everything to get rid of solar. They got the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, they're putting pressure. And so, but if you look, the robot keep bouncing back up. And so in my eyes, the solar industry is this robot where it's getting kicked around, but it's flourishing right now. I mean, they had a big conference, the Clean Energy Conference that just happened. They had 37,000 attendees, and they are expecting to add 33 gigawatts of power, solar power, this year alone. I mean, they're really growing. There's data centers growing, American utilities that continue to grow, and the demand is skyrocketing every year for more affordable options. So yeah, we're seeing a Trump bump in solar investment. They think some of the tax discounts are going to end. I have a feeling they may get extended, but ultimately they're trying to get a lot of these measures passed, and you're seeing solar continue to be an option. And I think when I think about solar, I really continue to think about my book, and I continue to think about the demand for silver. It's really just continuing to skyrocket. Yeah, I was talking earlier today. Yeah, look at that demand on solar. I was talking earlier today from Gary at Next News, and we were talking about Russia and Saudi Arabia for the first time in 150 years is actually buying silver. It was their first time buying silver in 150 years. So silver's having a real moment right now. Obviously broke 44 $44 an ounce. Gold is at 37, well above 3,700 at this point. But silver is just absolutely, it's the hottest metal on earth right now. So it's pretty exciting. So, and I dive into this a lot in my book. I get into the specifics of this. And thank you for everyone that has been buying my book. I really appreciate it. It's, you know, my baby, so to speak, and things are going pretty well there. So, but I think that long story short, silver has been kicked around, solar's been kicked around, but the demand is very, very high right now. So it's an amazing time for metals. Everyone's talking about metals. Call us if you watched, if you've been thinking about it. You know, we'd love to earn your business. If you have an old 401k IRA, call us. We'd love to help you get into these things. Real silver, real gold. This is the real stuff. No, nothing fake. You own it. No shares, no leverage accounts. So thanks everyone for coming in today. You know, obviously the metals are on fire. If you like this, you know, and you're new, subscribe, please. We do this every week, sometimes twice a week if there's something going on in the news. We also send, you know, short clips. But please subscribe. That'll help us grow the channel. If you want to learn about us, go to Noble Gold Investments, hit the link below, or just call us. If you want to talk to a live person, call the number. Talk to anyone there. We have a lot of promotions going on right now. We'd love to help you and check out our reviews. I think if you go online, see us, give us a call. We'd really love to work with you and see if we can help you get into